Hello and welcome to the Talk with Tariro. Today on the program, we're continuing with our discussions where we are looking at COVID-19, but looking at it not from the medical side. And on the program today, our focus is on the issue of handling grief. We do know that on a day-to-day basis, now as a country, we are witnessing our mortality rate related to COVID-19 increasing. Worrying numbers. We get reports that funeral homes are overwhelmed. People have lost so many of their relatives. I think each one of us who's watching this program, we know one or two families, or we have directly been affected by COVID-19 through losing some of our loved ones. And as a result, still as a nation, we need to continue adhering to the lockdown regulations as well as practicing the COVID-19 protocols that's masking up, maintaining social distance, as well as sanitizing, washing our hands for at least 20 seconds with soap or even with sanitizer. And on the program today on handling grief, I'm joined by Nyaradzo Vicky Mavendidze. Nyaradzo is actually a life coach as well as a psychologist. So really being the right person to assist us in addressing this issue, which is affecting us psychologically. I know one or two people who have had anxiety attacks. A number of people who have actually decided to just switch off from news because getting those numbers is affecting them. Nyaradzo, welcome to the talk.
Thank you, Tariro, for having me.
Yes. Worryingly, as a nation, the COVID-19 pandemic is wreaking havoc. We are losing a lot of our loved ones. Handling grief. How best can we handle grief? The state has already proclaimed that funerals, only 30 people are supposed to attend. When you go to lay someone to rest, you don't even see their face. No time to say goodbye. Everything is just, we can't explain it. How do we handle it?
It's really sad, Tariro. We're really, I think, in this December and January, it's now become a reality. I think last year, at the beginning of it, there were numbers, and we were watching the statistics, and some people could afford to be removed from the situation and even be sarcastic or polarized about it. But now it's really come very close to home, and those numbers are now have names, and those names are people who are close to us, people that we know, people that we last saw a few days ago, that we spoke to yesterday. So it is really a difficult time that has come to us. And you find that with handling grief, the first thing that comes is denial. You actually can't believe that it has happened to you. I've heard of stories where people say that, I was speaking to her yesterday morning and she was saying she had a symptom or 2 or 3, and I advised her to go to a COVID test. And then in the evening they went to get tested, and in the evening they deteriorated, and in the morning they were gone, and there's no closure.
Yes. Being honest with my emotions, like what you are saying, the people that we are losing, oftentimes they are the breadwinners. It's my mother, it's my father, And how do I get to that point of them saying, I will reach to a point of acceptance? I know it can never be easy.
Acceptance is a word. In reality, 10 years later, you'd still be wondering why. And unfortunately, we will never know why and how. So acceptance is way down in the process. But the first start is just to actually accept your emotions, that you're hurting. Be honest with your emotions, that you're hurting.
But there's no support system with this. So how do we cope?
Whatever it is that you're feeling, acknowledge it and feel it and express it. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to wail, wail. If you want to scream, scream. Go through your way. of grieving. I'd also want to say as well to the other mourners, something that we really do wrong when someone is expressing their grief is to tell them to hold themselves, to not cry, to calm down, to be quiet. No. When someone is accepting and expressing their emotion, just be by their side quietly and hold them.
But we can't hold each other now. We are supposed to maintain
Well,
social distance.
2 meters away.
Psychologists, that's where we want you to help us.
2 meters away,
what we are going through
in your own
on
silence, keep quiet. Don't tell them how to express their grief. Because people are different. Some people will be in a state of shock.
Yes.
So they actually will be getting themselves busy, running around and trying to sort out and organize the funeral. And you won't even see them shed a tear. I'll tell you, my dad died in 2000. I wailed in 2019 on his birthday. I spent a day wailing on his birthday. And I didn't understand. But during his funeral in 2000, I don't remember shedding a tear. But on his birthday in 2019, that's 19 years later, that's when I wailed. So people express grief differently. So whichever way a person is expressing grief, don't tell them, no, sit down, stop running around, just feel this, or no, stop crying. Just allow them from your safe social distance, allow them to express their grief. The second thing is, if you're grieving, run to where comfort can be found. The funerals are very short. We no longer have 24 hours.
Yes.
I mean, we no longer have 3 or 4 days. We no longer have to wait for family in the diaspora to come. The 24 to 48 hours max.
Yeah.
So it's very quick and everything goes so fast. But when you are in that space, you need to run to where comfort is found. Ask for help. Have 1 or 2 or 3 people who you can either on the phone or at a safe social distance be able to run for comfort and express how you're feeling and tell them, I feel guilty because maybe I hadn't done this, or we had this fight, or we had this problem. I feel this. Express yourself. So you need to have a support structure and you need to express those emotions verbally. You need to vent and you need to run to where comfort is found. Whilst you're grieving, though, don't fall into grief's traps, because grief also has traps. Anger, doubt, self-pity, anxiety, and bitterness. Because if you fall into those traps, they begin to grow and you end up in a state of depression and it becomes clinical, and now you have to take medication, anti-anxiety tablets, you start having panic attacks. And so don't fall into those traps. Maybe you end up overeating, over drinking, just to numb the pain. So you also need to watch yourself and see how you're dealing with the grief. That's why it's very important to run where comfort can be found.
Is it easy though?
Of course it's not. It's definitely not. It's definitely not easy. But that's why you need a good support structure. And when I say good support structure, find the people who know, or when you have been with them or been speaking to them, you feel better. Because not all of us as a support structure know how to help, how to comfort, how to counsel someone who's grieving. A lot of the times we say the wrong things. So we'll get to that. We will get to talk to the support structure. Then you also just need to open yourself up to helpers and help. When people check on you, want to speak to you, offer you help, open yourself up to get help. Because the grieving road is a really long road. But fortunately, the divine allows us to find helpers along our way. So you must be able to identify a helper and accept the help that they come with.
Well, thank you very much, Nyari. We will continue with our discussion after the break, where today we are discussing the issue of handling grief linked to COVID-19. Join us after the break. Our discussion today on the program, The Talk with Tariro, continues. And on the program, I am with Nyaradzo Viki Mavindidze, a life coach as well as a psychologist. We are discussing the issue of handling grief. Grief, which is now completely different from how we normally understand it. When someone dies of COVID-19, we don't get to even do body viewing. Usually, if they're admitted in hospital, we're not visiting them in hospital. Next thing we're told they've died. Next thing they're going to the funeral parlor. From there to the graveside and they are buried. We never get that time to say goodbye. It becomes difficult for the loved ones, and really just handling it. Even talk about getting closure might even be a pipe dream. Nyari, when we're looking at supporting somebody who is in grief, who has lost somebody, as friends, as family, how best can we support them?
I'll tell you that we usually, most of the times, I want to avoid using the word always, say the wrong things. We usually say, oh, mwaribaita kuda kwao. God has done his will. Really? So God has chosen me to have this loss. Don't worry, with time you will heal. Really? What about now? Time is not going to bring the person back. So there are a lot of things that we say that are wrong. I understand. Are you sure you understand? If you have a husband, or you have a child, or you have a mother, or just the circumstances are different. So a lot of the times we end up saying the wrong thing. And the best things to say, what is recommended, is to say, I'm really sorry for your loss. Nematambudziko. Tarasikirwa. We've had a great loss. I'm here for you. Whatever you need, please let me know. I'll assist you.
When you talk about me going to someone and then sometimes I'm part of the 30, you're talking about just being silent.
Yes.
How is that?
I think silence is better than saying the wrong things. I have an aunt who lost her son more than a decade ago and she still hasn't gotten over it. And during that time that she was grieving in the first couple of years, she actually used to complain about how people say the wrong things, even Christians, even clergymen. And even now, as she goes through it, people still put their foot in it. And she'll say, so and so said this to me. And I'm realizing it's almost a decade now. So she is still going through that. That's actually how I learned that there is nothing. A lot of the times we feel obliged to say something, but we end up saying the wrong things. Unless you are a trained grief counselor or you have exposure, sometimes it's silence. The other thing that you can probably say amongst the 30 is to talk about the deceased in pleasant ways, pleasant memories of pleasant things about them and going through the pleasant memories. But never to tell someone that it's going to be okay. And so I would then recommend for everybody to get information and study on how to support those who are grieving. Because a lot of the times we say the wrong things.
Now I want to go into where I'm handling grief, and sometimes I'm also not well. Because usually, maybe within the same household, 2-3 people get infected. We lose one person. We are sick. Maybe the two of us. Next thing, boom, the other person is gone. How do I handle that? Because this is now the reality.
The first thing already, when it's a family, a household, and you're not well, one of the things that we struggle with is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of death, especially now that we're surrounded by names and acquaintances and family. Then it happens to you. So you also start fearing your death. I would want to say, as long as you have breath in you, as long as the sun rises in the morning and you have the privilege and favor of seeing daylight, keep hope up. And do not allow yourself to be afraid. As you're feeling the symptoms, fear will come. Acknowledge the symptom. Cough, away,
Yes.
your shortness of breath, whatever symptom you're feeling, acknowledge the symptom, because you can't say there's a thin line between being unrealistically positive and also just actually being positive.
Yes.
So acknowledge the fact you're not well. Acknowledge the feeling of fear, and then you replace it with a thought, an affirmation, and action that speaks to the results that you want to see. So you speak to your body. I'd encourage everybody to look for Joseph Murphy's book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind, where our mind is the most powerful weapon and organ in our body, is our brain, is the brain is the organ. And it's very important. The thoughts that you think are carried to your brain centers as impulses, neurons, and things become released in your body that are in line with your thoughts. And thoughts do become things. So as the symptom comes, acknowledge it, take the medication, whatever needs to be done, but in your thought process, rebuke it.
Thank you, Nyari. Really powerful there. As much as this subject that we are discussing is really something that can get to us, and we tend to get sad. It's never easy. Grief, sickness is never easy. But Nyari is encouraging us to say, let's always be positive, because our minds do influence what will happen to us as individuals. We'll continue with our discussion after this short break. Welcome back. We continue with our discussion, and we are looking at the issue of handling grief. And as much as we're talking about handling grief, we are also looking at handling um, sickness, because grief usually comes after someone is sick. And oftentimes, the person who has died has left other members within the family who are also sick. So, handling all those issues with COVID-19, it has really become a real reality. Nyari, I'm also looking at the people who've got somebody who is sick, who are supposed to be the support system. How best can we become someone's support system, uh, and dealing with that, also making sure we're not then affected ourselves. Here I'm talking about affected, becoming sick, as well as psychologically just being affected, being burnt out.
I think that becoming affected physically, we always have to take precautions, even if it's your loved one, your child, or your partner. Always wear your mask, take all the medical, your PPE, your sanitizers. Always make sure that they are in a certain space or room in the house that they're in. And whenever you get in there, you have to be masked up, you sanitize, and take care of all those precautions. You also have to take preventative measures as much as you can, especially if you're not infected. The medications, your vitamin supplements, your immune boosting supplements, and they don't have to be medical. We are blessed, and the beauty is that we actually have natural products that everybody else is talking about. Where we have zumbani, we have the moringas, we've got the garlic and ginger and lemon. So make that a daily ritual to take those things. Get as much information of what you can use that is within your household, steaming 3 times a day, so that you take care of your own physical health. In terms of your emotional health, you'll find that when a person is not well, depending on their personality, they also exhibit different traits. So maybe if they're naturally an introverted person, they withdraw. So they don't want to talk. Maybe they become grumpy, but they're not expressive. And you're wanting to draw them out to find out what is wrong, how are you feeling, but they actually just don't want to speak. So you also have to understand your patients, or the personality, to be able to understand what they're going through, and not really take it personally when they exhibit their personality on the weak side of their personality. Maybe when they're extroverted or temperamental, they may become they can throw tantrums and
Yes.
even be abusive because they're in pain and they also are afraid.
Afraid,
So you're
yes.
not the only one who's worried. You're not the only one who's dealing with fear and all these emotions. They're also afraid. They're also worried. They're also feeling the symptoms. So you also need to exercise wisdom, not to take things personally and to be patient.
When you're talking about all that, um, just handling the life pressures and handling COVID, it's there. And I think those are some of the struggles that people are facing from a psychological point of view. How best can we deal with it? And like now, people are talking about, they're all exhibiting. You feel like, I've got the signs and symptoms, I've got them. And we're spending most of our time on Google trying to see what are the signs and
A little
symptoms. So
headache,
yeah,
a
a
little
little
throat
headache
ache, a
comes,
little
a
cough.
flu comes, because we used to go to have flu, but now
Anything is
yeah,
COVID. I know. I know.
it's COVID. So how do we move from that as individuals? Because already our health, mental well-being has been affected and continues to be affected.
You're saying that the other day I was speaking to my mother and I coughed. And she says, "Are you okay?" No, no, no. So I said, "Mama, munaacha kosora. Can't I cough anymore? Like, I still can cough and not have COVID, you know." So you're right. Any slight symptom, you start thinking that there's something wrong with you. But I think that the first confidence you can have is if you're eating healthy. I think that now we should really be going back to the caveman's diet. More vegetables. Go green as much as you possibly can. Natural plant proteins, whole grain foods. So eat healthy. Detox, avoid the sugars, too much salt, too much oil,
Yeah.
and just get into a place of detox so that you know you're taking care of your body. You're boosting your immune system by taking the natural immune boosters. Vitamin C supplements are great, zinc is great, but and we're privileged as Zimbabwe because a lot of our foods are still organic and a lot of our foods we grow in our gardens. So go back to the natural foods that boost your immune system, the natural herbs. Pretty much, I remember I went to the Forestry Commission the other day. There's a plant there called Muranga. I've actually forgotten its botanical name that is actually excellent for fighting colds and flus. And the botanist there was telling us about the natural healing properties of some of the things that we pull out from our garden and we think they're weeds. You know, right now it's raining and we have blackjack that just grows on its own. Just take the leaves and boil them and make them into a tea. So the first confidence is knowing that you're taking care of yourself physically. The second thing is just having faith. This is the time more than ever that our faith, we have to rely on faith. Surviving this thing is a grace issue because the people who have lost the battle to COVID have not lost it because there was something wrong with them or they didn't do well enough. It's been unfortunate. So being here today, even as we're having this conversation, it's by grace because it could have been us, it could have been a loved one, it could have been, so it's just having faith. Right now we have faith. The third thing is just now we need community more than ever. We need each other to support each other mentally, saying the right things, not complaining about, oh, this should have been done differently, or we don't trust the vaccine, or whatever negative conversations now we need community more than ever to support and be there for each other.
Briefly, your key message to us as a nation.
Wow. Okay. I think that as a nation, we can win this together. Let's let's practice social distancing and stay at home. If we manage to cross this hurdle and conquer, we will always have time to socialize, to eat at restaurants, to go to bars and nightclubs, and to have parties.
Well, that's Nyari there for us. The time will come for us to go out there and lead our normal lives, and we are definitely positive that in the near future, not so distant future, this will become a reality. But for now, let's make sure that the COVID protocols are adhered to. When we are speaking about being on lockdown, let's stay at home and make sure that we remain safe. It is safe for you, it is safe for the next person. Until next week, it's goodbye.